why are you just trying to run more tests? What are you doing here? They get so wrapped up in the minutia of running these little itty bitty tests here or there that they lose complete sight of the big picture.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new and fresh episode of the CVO Live. I'm here with Martin Greif, all the way from the US. So basically, we are seeing your fresh version, Marty, right?
Perfect.
Great. So right now we are going to focus on a lot of aspects. You have a ton of experience into the optimization. I must let our audience know that you are the president of SiteTuners, which is one of the best CRO agencies in the US. And the first question for you, as for all our guests today, is how you've landed, how you've got into the optimization space in the very beginning, Martin.
Okay, so if I go back a number of years, I used to do real work. I was a developer, so I coded for a living and did real work. And one day, I was approached by a software company, and they said, "Hey, you can talk about technology without drooling on yourself. You should be in marketing." And so I joined a marketing group, and I always focused on getting the message to the visitor, what was in it for them. I've always done that. And so that naturally led into basically conversions. And with that in mind, it's got to be about 12 years ago. So the founder of SiteTuners, who was a friend of mine, called me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to join and help take the company to the next level." And I said, "Well, I'm recommending this guy and that guy." And he goes, "No, dummy, I meant you." And so, well, you know Tim, right? So anyway, I said, "All right, I'm happy to do that." And I said, "I'll promise you, I'll give you 5 years." All right. And 5 years came and went. And the next thing I know, I'm here, I don't know, maybe it's 11 years now, and I wound up buying the company from them. I just loved it so much that I went, "Oh, you know what? I just want to do this because I get my jollies from this." Anyway, weird answer, but that's my story.
Excellent. So, Marty, why don't you tell us? We've had Tim Ash in one of our former episodes of the CVO Live 1 year ago or something like that.
Sure.
Why don't you tell us a bit about your perspective over the optimization? So you are coming from the business arena, right? So basically you took the company and they were like, I don't know, let's say they were at 10 and you got it to 100, or just for the sake of the image.
Sure.
Tell us a bit about how do you see optimization through your from your eyes as a business leader?
Sure. Well, it's changed, and my answer is changing now because of all of the conversation around AI. And so we're using AI a lot in our in our optimization efforts. As a matter of fact, there's one of our team members is about to be promoted to director of marketing AI. He doesn't know that yet, so we're not telling him anything, right? So, but so some things have changed, but some things have stayed the same, which is really strange. So what I really have to go back to what stayed the same first, which is, did I lose you? Oh, because you disappeared for a second.
Yeah, right? We're good. Our video guy is giving you the...
No worries. So what stayed the same is the fundamentals. If you're not managing your fundamentals, I can't tell you how many times people come to us and their analytics aren't set up correctly, and I'm talking, sometimes these are like billion-dollar companies. It's bizarre. And they just don't even have their analytics correct, or they're using a testing tool and they're not, figuring out what they should be testing, or they're not calculating on average order value or customer lifetime value. So the basics are still critical. And AI, which everyone wants to talk about, only help you enhance your optimization efforts if you've got your basics in place. And so I believe what's going to happen is people are going to focus more and more and more on getting those basics right, because everything is online, everything. And with AI making things automated, I think it's going to show the holes that people have because they don't have their basics in place. Just my opinion.
Yeah. And you've said something important regarding this. There is this contrast, if you look at things, Marty. On one end, we have this AI, which is helping us to do these advanced things that we haven't thought that there are possible. And on the other hand, we have companies which haven't sorted out their unit economics properly. They don't know their AOV.
Yeah.
They don't have their tracking set up correctly. So how can you leverage the AI with an analytic solution which is not tracking properly the visitor or the customer behavior, or you don't know your lifetime value, but you want to become profitable in or stay profitable in this economic, let's say, challenging economic times?
Sure.
So one question that I have for you, Marty, is why do you think this is happening? Because it's not only we are not talking about the small mom and shop, mom and pop shop, which is down around the corner. We are talking about, and we are seeing this in Europe. We also have customers in the US as well, which are pretty big, and they don't have this internal alignment regarding the unit economics. They don't have the analytics set up correctly. They have this chaotic reporting. Let's put it bluntly. Why do you think this is the case?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons, and it depends on the organization. So for some organizations that appear to be successful, success hides problems. Revenue, which we all go after, revenue, when it's growing, masks problems. Because if the revenue is going up, people are like, oh, good things are happening. And so they don't pay attention to all the numbers under the covers. And we've seen this so many times where a client comes to us and we've had to do this analysis where their revenue was going up, their traffic was going up, all these good things were happening. But before they came to us, their conversion rate was going down. And so because the revenue was going up, they weren't paying attention to all of the underlying numbers that actually made sense. We've even seen people weren't paying attention to profitability. And so they think they're being successful because they're looking at top line revenue, or they're looking at a couple numbers, and they really just don't dig deep enough. So I think problem number one is, for some companies, when they're really successful, that success means they get, and I don't say lazy about looking at the fundamentals, but it happens. The other thing that happens with people is analytics and the analysis that you should be doing on a regular basis is not a one and done. So people, and you know this, okay, because we've talked about this in the past, people create their analytics and they update everything and then they walk away from it. And maybe they don't even look at it. And so it's just churning in the background. But their website has changed. Their promotions have changed. Their customer traffic has changed. The customers themselves might have changed. And so all of a sudden, over a period of anywhere from weeks to months to years in some instances, which we've seen, their analytics are capturing data, but it's not the right data to capture. So they did it, and then they never looked at it again. Or if they look at it, they're really not paying attention to it. And the other thing, and this drives me nuts, and by the way, you and I have had this discussion. Data itself really doesn't help at all. What helps is reading, understanding the data, and figuring out, what does it mean? What insights do I generate from this data that's going to make a difference in my business? So it's not just collecting the data, it's spending the time thinking about it and saying, what is this telling me and how does it impact my business? So let's go back to revenue going up can mask problems. People set up their analytics and then forget about it. And then the third thing that I just mentioned is they're not doing the analysis, using the brain power to figure out what it's telling them. And I think these are the problems in general. I mean, do you have
Yeah,
a different one, or do you agree or disagree? Tell me if I'm wrong.
yeah. I totally agree with you, Marty. Unfortunately, yeah, that's the status quo. When everything goes well, you think that everything goes well, and there is nothing to optimize out there. So hunger and struggle make you change things, make you look at things that are not going the right way. And I completely agree with the other ones. Of course, I mean you have these analysts which are producing these reports and they are throwing on the other colleagues, and then their job is done, and their colleagues, they look at them for once, or they even start to ignore them because they have tasks to do. I mean, who's to understand that data and to produce change when everything is going like we've been doing this forever like this? Why should we change? I mean, if it is not broken, why fix it, right?
Absolutely. I had a boss years ago. His name was Steven, and he was brilliant. And one day he said, let's stop sending out all the reports to the different departments. And we stopped all the reports. And I said, why are we doing this? He said, let's see who complains, because those are the people who are actually using the reports. And if they don't complain, why are we wasting our time with these things? And so we stopped it. And we must have been sending out, I don't know, dozens and dozens of reports. And we had like one or two people say, hey, where's my report? But everybody else didn't say anything. I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. So, yeah.
Maybe they stop sending them. God help, we are safe now. I mean, we weren't using those anyway. I love this story. Yeah, and unfortunately, there are plenty of anecdotes like this. I once I was working once with a very large retailer, and I
Mhm.
was there just to, let's say, smooth things out because they were building their internal optimization team, and they
Mhm.
were using this data team, their data team. And
Mhm.
at some point we realized that their data team was using the a wrong model to look at the first party and third party. So basically they were looking at the uh, uh, add to cart rate and the
Mhm.
cart abandonment rate,
Mhm.
but they were basically blending this data.
Okay.
So on one end, they were looking from on the first party items, like the ones they were selling directly, and on the third party data, they were using a different formula. They were looking from step one, let's say, directly to step three, and they used these reports. I mean, we were looking like they were 1 year and 2 months since they were using this skewed data. They were not measuring the same things, and they thought that the third party vendors were actually having a better uh, conversion rate down the line because they were using this type of skewed data.
Oh
And
yeah.
I guess that's the way with it. I mean, why should we investigate it if things are going well? um,
Yeah,
I
and we've seen that over and over and over again. And I have to laugh, like for an e-commerce site, and you'll love this. We've seen they've got their e-commerce conversion rate, but they also have their newsletter signups, and they got some other thing, and they lump it all into a conversion rate for all of their conversions. And I'm like, do you really want to measure your e-commerce signups or e-commerce rates with your newsletter signups? Are those equal? No, but if they were in their minds, I was like, and I know that sounds, I think the technical term is batshit crazy, but they were doing it, right? So,
Yeah, Marty, I think one reason why this is happening, I mean, the underlying reason is that uh, the, let's say, not lack of education, but lack of understanding or curiosity at the top level. So we have this saying and I think the Turks claim it as a saying, the Germans claim it as a saying, we Romanians claim it as a saying. The fish start to sting from the head. And
yes,
I think the underlying reason is that the lack of curiosity of the leadership team regarding, hey, are we actually doing this the right way? Are we leveraging the data? Are we measuring correctly the data? How many initiatives? I mean, if you think about it, if you have a leader which is asking, hey, team of hundreds of people,
sure.
what crazy, incredible, outstanding, radical initiatives have you got based on the tons of data that we are paying a lot of money to likes like Salesforce or Google Analytics or whatever to
Hmm.
collect. What
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of initiatives you've had in the last quarter or year, let's say? But nobody's asking that because they're not curious.
No. Well, I ask a slightly different question. I ask my team all the time, so what have you done lately that you're really proud of?
Yeah.
And you get some interesting answers. And when people don't have something to say about that, it really makes them think about, oh, that's a problem. So,
Yeah. Anyways, Marty, I think the i- if we are to empathize with the large enterprise companies that we're talking about, these are like small countries. They have their rules, they have their governance, they have people which are charismatic and influential first, because that's what it means to be a leader, right? You persuade the other ones, you convince them that they could follow you. And uh, I want to question something. I want to, let's say, question something together. Do you think that in the future, the leaders which don't get data, don't get things like algorithms and the experimentation, will still be able to run these kind of companies, because the game at the top level is changing as well? So it's not like you can sleep over what your ancestors done, and you just need to tweak those things. I mean, these are challenging times for retailers. For instance, the grocery retailers, they are now threatened by the quick commerce, right? By
mhm.
the delivery companies that are being perceived as the saviors of people's time, and they are endangered to become simple warehouses. Those huge warehouses which are sitting at in the outskirts of the main cities. And my question to you is that, if you think these leaders could get away with it in the future without being data literate and oriented towards experimentation.
Well, I think we have to define what getting away with it means. All right. Because, no, no, seriously, because very large companies can continue on autopilot for a long time, all right, based on their history. And then suddenly one day they fall apart. So if you look at Sears in the United
Yeah,
States, massive, massive, right? And between acquisitions they made and just not embracing you know basically a whole bunch of trends, not just online, but a whole bunch of changes in the demographics of
yeah,
the United States. They just suddenly failed at some point. And so when you look at some of these larger organizations, um, they can continue on, almost like, you know, changing a battleship's direction. It takes a long time for it to change. They can just continue sailing, right? And so I think some people will get away with it. That's why
yeah,
I'm hedging. But others, depending upon where they are in that process, might suddenly come to that realization, like, oh, we're really in trouble. So I hate to say it depends, but it depends on how big they are, what the momentum is, and whether or not they're actually going to be able to continue, and truly and get away with it, which is what you used to get away with it. That's the key. Will they be able to get away with it? And
yeah,
but companies who want to grow, which is a little different than companies who want to, continue. Growth requires adaptation, and if you're not adapting to what's happening out there, then it's like a shark. It's continue swimming or dying. It's adapt or die. And so those people aren't going to grow. And they can't even copy one another. I had one very large company, $20 billion a year in revenue company, and I was speaking with their EVP about what they needed to do next. And his comment was, well, Apple does it this way. Well, that's great, but you're not Apple. Okay. No one knows who you are. Okay. You may be big, break into something. You have to really embrace the correct visitor models to understand who it is. And all they wanted to do was the pretty stuff like Apple did. I was like, Apple doesn't just do pretty stuff. It may look nice, but that's not where they start in the process. Anyway, they will remain nameless. So
yeah, which is exactly my point, because one thing that I keep on preaching is that companies will be in a position where they will be forced to blend the knowledge of the CFO with the knowledge of the CMO, which means that they need to become friends. And that means the models to that they use in order to forecast, in order to adapt, in order to understand what kind of moves where they should be investing next, will need to be customer centric. So they will need to use a model which is not taking into account only what happened in the past and the year over year growth, but things like the consumer behavior. Because if you don't pay attention to the consumer behavior, and that's precisely what Sears have done, like what Kodak has done, what Blockbuster has done, and there are plenty of examples like that. So I think the bridge, I mean, the once you have this type of internal alignment at the top of the organization, then you will be in a position to innovate further, even though you're not a startup anymore. So and that requires a bit of, let's say, open-mindedness, right? So you need people at the top of the organization that should be that should abandon the old ways to declare that they are successful. Because as you've said, revenue hides a lot of things. We had a company here in Europe called Stilago, and they were making something purely online at some point, something like 500 million in turnover. And they vanished in just 9 months. And that was due to the fact that they opened too many markets at the same time, and their customer churn was very big, even though they were investing a lot. So basically, they acquired a lot of customers that never come back, and their assumptions were wrong. So fill this with the investors' money. They thought that if the revenue is going up, we can conquer the entire world.
Exactly right. Yeah. So let me paraphrase what you said in a slightly different way, and I'll speak directly to the VPs of marketing that are watching, the CMOs and the CEOs and COOs. So, guys and women, your opinion of your marketing doesn't matter at all. Your opinion doesn't count. My opinion doesn't count. The only people that matter are the people who are coming to your either online store or your physical store and are giving you money. Those are the people that matter. And the people that matter most are the ones that come over and over and over again and have a very large lifetime value for you. Yes. On the real data. It's not your opinion. I can't tell you how many times, and we'll use a website for an example. I can't tell you how many times I've had a VP of marketing say, well, I like the way it looks, or, that's our brand message. Well, that's nice, but what's it doing for your visitor? What's it doing for the people giving you money? So the only way to truly adapt and be successful is to understand who's coming and who you're selling to. And you know what? There's a book everybody should read, and they should read it over and over and over again. And and when I tell you this, you're going to think, well, that's silly. But it's Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends. Because it's all about the other person. We're literally animals. We're selfish. We're self-centered. We think about ourselves, but you've got to get away from that. You've got to focus on the other people, on the people that are giving you money. All right. I think I've lectured enough. So sorry, I get carried away.
Marty, and yeah, that's a great book. By the way, I finished my book. I'll send the copy your way. I'm launching it officially in 20th of September, and there an entire chapter is about the fact that customer lifetime value is not about what you extract as a company, what's the value that you extract from your customers, but how much value you deliver to your customers. Because at the end of the day, if you pay attention to the fact that you provide enough value, then that's going to have a ripple effect in your customer base. And it's that good old law of in trade itself: under promise, over deliver. Just a bit, just enough to have people coming back and spread the word about how cool you are as a company.
Right. Well, I mean, it also invokes a conversion principle, the principle of reciprocity. If I do something good for you, you will do something good for me, which could be anything from buy from me to give me a great customer review to refer me to your friends.
Yeah. I want to touch on a subject, Martin, because you've already addressed that a bit, but I want to get more deeper into it. We are both coming from website e-commerce
Sure.
optimization, and what I've discovered is that our best partners, the agencies that are actually making customer value optimization happen, are the ones that have this, let's say, optimization DNA, right? They understand data, they understand psychology, they do this customer research, and then they are. I mean, the next natural step is, hey, let's apply this knowledge, these insights that we've just gathered about the customers, not only on the website but on the entire customer journey. So that you can fix what's broken, not only on the website or on the e-commerce, but also maybe on the bricks and mortar. Maybe you realize that, hey, customer experience, it's something that could be, let's say, not only tracked, but also addressed. And maybe you can collect this type of insights in real time. So the next phase, I think, in the optimization is to look at the entire customer journey. And my question for you is, when is this going to happen from your perspective? I mean, how do you see this unfolding? Because of course I was young and full and naive and thought that, you know what, it's going to be just 2-3 years from now everyone is going to do it. But you're more let's say grounded than I am, because you're not also biased like I am. I mean, I've changed the entire organization towards customer value optimization. Is not like I'm not happy about it. I've had quite a run and I have this opportunity, but I want to hear your perspective on it.
So, interesting enough, we've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we do for our larger clients is something we call a touch point audit. And what the touch point audit is we look at all of the touch points, not just the website. Now, obviously, you start on the website because that's the virtual front door for a lot of these e-commerce players. But if they have a physical store, we'll go to the physical store. We order product, so we look at the buying experience. We look at the shipment, how it comes. We unbox it and look at it. And I can't tell you how many times we get something and it's like, who did it and ran? They just threw stuff in a box. I actually had this discussion with a client the other day. They were so proud of their branding. And then I got this box and it looked like they sent it and was like, here's our crap. We hope you like it. It was terrible, right? And so we took photos. No, I'm serious. So we took photos of it and we explained the problem there. We look at their promotional emails. We look at their transactional emails. We look at their return policies. We work on their chat. We work on what happens when you call them. Every single one of these touch points matters, okay? And I'll tell you, if you just have the most wonderful website on the planet, yet when somebody calls in, they get somebody who's like, yeah, what do you want? That doesn't work, okay? I know that sounds obvious, but we've had these experiences. So we look at all of the touch points. And we've been doing this for, oh my God, it's got to be 10 years now, easily 10 years. And we've changed people's, we've not only changed their websites and sometimes their packaging and their delivery methods, we've actually even wound up changing some of their internal structures. We've had groups where they've had their people responsible for branding, and their people responsible for product, and all these, and they're all sitting on separate floors and they don't talk to one another. So we said, let's organize these people by what it is they kind of work together on. So they actually moved people from different floors, from different departments to work on different sets. So if I'm buying lawn furniture, all my lawn furniture people are together, okay? And they're all incented to make sure that good things happen, as crazy as it sounds. So, you want to make sure that not only are you doing the right thing by the clients and the customers that are coming to you, but you want to make sure that your organization is aligned so that they're all working in the same direction, they're rowing the boat in the same direction, right? Because otherwise, you've got people who are not collaborating, and all sorts of craziness ensues, right?
Yeah, I love it. Marty, I have a question for you regarding this metric, because customer lifetime value has this benefit of being used as a path towards profitability, right? You can look if this is going up or down. You can compare it. You can look at lifetime value by channel, by the first bought product, and whatever. You have many use cases for lifetime value. What I want to ask you is, how do you think the lifetime value could be leveraged as a metric, and who should be in charge of growing it, of increasing it in a company which, let's say it's an omni-channel company? Because if it's an e-commerce, it's pretty easy. I mean, if it's a pure e-commerce, but if it's an omni-channel, physical stores and digital channels, mobile apps and whatever, how do you feel like this should be handled?
So every organization is a little different, but depending upon the size of it, they might have a chief revenue officer, right, which is not an unusual position these days anymore. And so a chief revenue officer might have underneath them the e-commerce people as well as the in-store people and so on. So depending upon, again, the organizational structure, there's somebody like that. And if there's not somebody like that and they've got separate groups, then they need to have at a very high level some analysts who are responsible for not only just collecting the data, but coming up with actionable and intelligible insights that they can present to the executive team. And those people need to have unfettered access to the executive team so that the executives don't have to go figure it out. They've been given the data and recommendations. Now, if there's a chief revenue officer, that falls within that person's group, you would expect or hope, right? Might be in the CMO's group or somewhere in there, right? But it's as long as they're all working well together. I've been, VP of marketing, worked with a VP of sales. If they're not getting along, it doesn't work. You got to make sure that all of these people are in sync and their goals are in sync. So my recommendation is, if the structure goes up where it all goes to a chief revenue officer, that analytics group needs to be in there. If it's not where it falls into there, then the analytics group would probably wind up either in the marketing group or a separate analysis group. But again, they have to have unfettered access to the entire C-suite, because multiple people need that information so that they can improve their experience, the in-store experience, the packaging experience, the e-commerce experience, the promotional experience. All of that stuff needs to work together, and that's why that group needs to have that kind of access.
Yeah. One very important aspect, Martin, you've touched it already, is this connection between and the empowerment that the analytics team has, because we've had plenty of let's say stories around that. You pay a lot of money to some data scientists which are doing this modeling, they are doing this analysis, and then they are not the most persuasive people on this planet, because that's why they like numbers and not they don't like people so much in relationship, right? So they end up throwing a lot of insights and analysis to various stakeholders within the organization. It can be the retail director, it can be some store manager, it can be whatever. But if you don't have this let's say empowerment that the analytics team, which is doing this type of insights, can provide and can enforce to make experiments and to make this type of actions, right? Because as you've said at the beginning of our conversation, data is as useful as it's being used, right? Put it to work, turn it into insights, and those insights turn them into initiatives that are actually changing the way that you behave towards your customers or whatever. So what I've seen is that uh, there is the place for an agency such as yours, because I think the maturity of those, even those are large organizations, they don't have this exercise of experimenting, right?
Mhm.
So they can't turn data into initiatives that are being monitored and that are being validated from a statistical significance point of view. And things like cohort A/B testing, right? When you have a cohort of newly acquired customers, online or offline or on both of those channels, and you change the experience, their buying experience, you do like a follow-up call, you put them a package insert, you track how is this affecting things like customer retention, customer satisfaction, customer lifetime value. And that's why I think agencies such as yours, which are having this let's say practice acumen of
Mhm.
experimenting, are a great fit for this type of organizations, because your type of services are the missing link, right?
Mhm.
The pure e-commerce companies, the pure players, they got this and they have this the DNA. But when we talk about 20 or 30 years old companies, which are established companies, and they have online and offline activities, they dream about making online going, they dream about things like customer centricity, but to be honest, they don't have the experience to actually implement it. We're back. We've got a technical glitch. Can you hear me,
Yeah,
Mark?
yeah, we're back. Not sure what
Oh,
happened there. So, but I heard what you said. So here's the thing. I'm going to agree with you 80%. So let's talk about the 20% where I
yeah,
don't agree with you. Okay.
yeah. Let's
The
do that.
20% where I don't agree is you say that these e-commerce companies, the pure e-commerce, have this in their DNA. Let me tell you what I've experienced with some of them. They understand testing and they understand, data, but they get so wrapped up in doing testing, and they're doing, and they have conversations about doing, increasing their testing velocity. And it's like, well, why are you just trying to run more tests? What are you doing here? They get so wrapped up in the minutia of running these little itty bitty tests here or there that they lose complete sight of the big picture. So to your point of the customer lifetime value and making the bigger decisions, okay, in some of
Yeah,
these e-commerce players, they're stuck at this lower level,
yeah,
like gerbils in a treadmill, testing, and these testings aren't producing stuff because they're not looking at the bigger picture. And so I go back to, yes, I agree, like I said, with 80%, but you've got that group that just are stuck. And when somebody says to us, well, we want to increase our testing velocity, it's like, why? What are you testing? What's the value of it? I'm not saying don't run more tests, but what's the purpose? But I've had people, we need to increase our why? Okay, what's the point? So
yeah. At the end of the day, it's about keeping the eyes on the prize. And many e-commerce companies, indeed, they don't know how to grow, and they don't realize that they can increase the conversion rate but harm the profitability.
yeah.
And that, I mean, simply bribing customers and testing out without being relevant to your customers, without knowing how and when to follow up with what kind of products, then you're not going to move the needle on the long run. But uh, people are, let's say, learning about it. You are doing a tremendous job at helping the people learn how to tackle the conversion game. You have this conference, and that you're organizing is going to happen in just 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a bit about what's going to happen at the conversion conference?
So the conversion conference is something we've been doing since 2010, and we've done them in multiple cities around the world. This year's conference is going to be in Las Vegas, and it's the website is www.conversionconference.com. And this year, a large part of the conversations are all about how we're using marketing AI to enhance conversions. So there's keynote speeches about that. There's case studies. There's all sorts of really interesting sessions on not just conversion rate optimization, but AI, or how to use AI to make your social media convert better, or how to use AI to make your SEO pages convert better. So it's going to be a really, really interesting conversation. I know it's last minute, so if people see this and they want to get a last minute ticket, if they connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to if they PM me, to send them a really nice discount code, because the airfares to get to Vegas probably are not cheap right now at the last minute. So we'll make it up a little bit in the discount code. So.
Super. Great. Then, Marty, is there any question that I haven't been inspired enough to ask you, or if you have, I don't know, you've had this heartfelt message to the CMOs who are out there. Do you have another one for them, or for other roles within the organizations?
So I'm going to just expand upon that message just a little bit more. So if we go back to the analytics people and we talk about where they fall in the organization, you have to empower those people. If you empower those people and they feel like what they do really matters, and they're not the little data nerds in the corner, but they are an important part of the team, and they're able to walk into the CMO's office and say, hey, John or Jane or whatever the CMO's name is, I want to just run something by you. And they've spent time and effort to figure it out. Make sure that you acknowledge those people and create that culture of data and experimentation across your organization. If you do that, if you empower these people in your organization, your world will change for the better.
Love it. So, Marty, thanks a lot for being today with us. People can find you on LinkedIn, as I've heard. Can you please repeat your agency's website and the Conversion
Sure.
Conference website? We'll put it in the show notes as well.
Sure, absolutely. Well, SiteTuners is www.sitetuners.com, and that'll be in the link. And then the website for the Conversion Conference, which is really straightforward, it's www.conversionconference.com. We try not to make people think too much. We try to make it easy. So
don't make me think. It's a great principle.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then, Marty, thanks a lot for being today with us at the CVO Live. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see each other next week.